So Owen Farrell's been banned for 6 weeks, then it went down to 4 weeks, then to 3 weeks, and now he's available for the Six Nations. So let's get stuck into it. I'm not going to roll the intro credits this time because they're a bit out of date with Eddie Jones not being the England coach. Hopefully I'll get some good footage from Twickenham from the Six Nations this year from the press conferences to update that intro. But let's get straight into it. Owen Farrell, his illegal tackle on Jack Clement. He's now available for the Six Nations, so let the controversy begin, the conspiracy theories, whatever. But I read the actual report from the Citing Commission, which is fairly interesting, actually. I advise you to do that if you want to. The entry point was in at 6 weeks, which I think is correct, actually. It kind of goes along with what other bans have been like. Then it got reduced by 2 weeks to a 4-week ban because of a few things, acknowledging he was guilty, his disciplinary record, which I didn't think was great, to be honest, plus remorse. Okay, fine. And references. References is really weird. I mean, who would write a bad reference? The coach says, oh yeah, ban my player for longer. So a little bit strange, but anyway, that's what happens these days. So it's down to 4 weeks, which would have seen him banned for the Scotland game, the first game of the Six Nations. But if Owen Farrell agrees to attend a World Rugby coaching intervention programme, it gets reduced to 3 weeks. And I think he's going to go, to be honest. And that means England get Farrell for the first game. Plus, he's played a lot of rugby this year already. He can have a nice rest and he's ready to go. So in many ways, it worked out very nicely. So yeah, let the controversy roll. Pop it in the comments below because I understand the point of view. People saying typical, they were going to get him ready for the Six Nations. I think Andy Good on the Rugby Pass said that was going to happen, and it has. So I'm going to have a look at this tackle and also talk about tackling in general. I've got some big views on that, definitely. I was going to talk about who replaces Owen Farrell as England fly half, but we don't need to talk about that now. But maybe, who might be on the bench for him. We'll have a quick look at that as well. Now, I'd like to say at this point, I'm not trying to pick on Owen Farrell. Honest, lots of players tackle like this. It's just he's high profile. This is the case at the moment. So let's look at it through the lens of this tackle and Owen Farrell's ban, etc. Now, the ball carrier did dip a bit and Owen Farrell did dip a bit as well, but not enough. The ball carrier dipped lower, but not unreasonably low, and it is the tackler's responsibility to be safe and go below neck height. So yeah, it is Farrell's responsibility. Could he have tackled lower? Yes, he did. I know it happens quickly, but he definitely had time to choose his height, and he got it wrong for sure. He didn't mean to hit him in the head, but he certainly didn't mean to go really low either. Now, the other thing about this tackle, which a lot of players do, and you can see it on the freeze frames, is he's absolutely leading with his shoulder. Now, in the Citing report, it's really interesting. They kind of fell for the con, or I don't know what game they were playing. They were saying there was an arm wrap after the tackle, which is ridiculously irrelevant. That's just for show, to show, oh, maybe I was wrapping my arms. You can see by the way he goes into the tackle, he's leading with the shoulder. We've seen this many times before from many other players. You lean with the shoulder, you put one arm out to make it look like it's wrapping, then after you've smashed with the shoulder, you then put the other arm out to complete the so-called wrap. It's just a sham, to be honest. He's leading with the shoulder. That's what a lot of players do, so I don't quite know why the Citing Commission fell for that or think that's relevant, because it's not. Now, why do players do this? Well, it's because they want to win the collision, and more importantly, it's what the coaches want. They want them to win the collision, so the temptation to lead with the shoulder is there, and coaches aren't picking up on it, because believe me, if they told them to stop doing this or you don't get picked, they would. So it's not a case of habit. I'll come back to that. It's not the worst example that I've seen of it, but it's definitely a legal tackle, definitely a red card. Fairly lucky to get away with 3 weeks, that is for sure. And the thing that put it down to 3 weeks was this World Rugby coaching intervention course, this tackle school. And let's say it how it is. That's a load of rubbish. Professional players, in fact all decent players, know how to tackle legally, and they choose to do it illegally 99% of the time. You absolutely choose how you tackle, and coaches choose how they coach to tackle. And trust me, if a coach said to a professional player or any decent player, you tackle low 100%, you wrap your arms on contact, make sure you don't go high, whatever you do, fall over with the ball carrier, they would do it 99.9% of the times easily. Now, people think it's a habit, it's a reaction, and occasionally sticking an arm out and catching someone high as they're running past you, okay. But if people say it's a habit, players need to get out of the habit, it's not at all. I'll tell you an example. I was playing for a decent team, and many of the players went on to play professional and international, but at the time, it was a decent team, shall we say, not professional at the time, and squeeze ball was the new thing. You put the ball between your legs, the jackler can't get anywhere near it. It was essentially cheating, but referees let it go, so you did it for ages and it was made illegal because it was just too good to be true. And he said every single presentation, you do squeeze ball. And we'd practice squeeze ball, but not every single time. And we went out and every single player did squeeze ball every single time because we got told we had to. And if you didn't, you probably wouldn't get picked. It's easy. Decent players, especially professional players like Owen Farrell, can tackle low if they want to. They don't need to go to a school to tell them to do it. The coach just says, do it, and they'll do it. So it's a bit of a sham. I'm not sure why it's there. But anyway, it gets down to 3 weeks. Now, if the logic holds that it's a conscious decision rather than a reflex habit most of the time, coaches are either implicitly or explicitly telling players to tackle not quite like this, but certainly stand up in the tackle, smash with the shoulder if you can, get away with a little bit of an arm wrap, win the collision. That's what's most important, not the classic wrap with the arms first, fall over with the player. Why? Well, because at the moment, the positives still outweigh the negatives. Sure, some players might get banned sometimes, yellow cards, occasional red cards, but for the smash factor you get for hitting those dominant tackles, it's worth carrying on doing. Keeping players on their feet when they make the tackle, defence coaches like that, so they can still affect the game. You can be physically dominant, you hit around the chest, etc. Stop the offload. So at the moment, the positives still outweigh the negatives. It's not just bad habit or anything like that. So at the moment, World Rugby is losing this battle, trying to get coaches to tell players to tackle lower, because that's where it will happen. Trust me, if coaches say it will happen, it will happen. So what they need to do is just sanction more, unfortunately. They have to sanction to the point where the negatives outweigh the positives, and coaches finally go, okay, fine, we'll tell them to wrap with their arms and fall over with the player in the classic style, and we will just accept players will offload more and we won't be on our feet to contest the ball, affect the game. That's kind of where it has to go unless there is another solution. Let me know in your comments below. That's how I see it. Now, in summary, the battle is with the coaches, not the players. Like I said, if you get the coaches to coach to tackle lower, not to hit with the shoulder, not to stay on your feet, then you reduce all these dangerous tackles, but you've got to make it positive to do so, more likely to win to do so, because it's the professional game and coaches will coach the way that they're most likely to win. But anyway, let me know what you think. Pop those comments below. Now, finally, like I said, I'm going to talk about who's going to be the replacement 10, considering that Owen Farrell is probably going to start at 10. And I think option 1 is George Ford. He's coming back to fitness. I think he will be fit in time for the Six Nations. The negative is he hasn't played much rugby. The positive is he's incredibly experienced, and also I think he'll fit in very nicely to the style that Nick Evans might want to play in attack. So if they think he's got enough fitness in his legs, he'll probably come in on the bench actually, considering he won't play a full game. That might work anyway. Supposedly he's bulked up as well because, his main weakness is he's very small, so players will run over him, so he's trying to mitigate that, so fair play. If Owen Farrell, say, got injured or something like that, I think another starter could be Joe Simmons, who's obviously match fit, 26 years old, he's in his prime, he's been in and around the England side. There's been talk about maybe his mentality hasn't been quite right at times, his confidence, but I think he's really on top of his game at the moment. He'd be a very physically robust fly half, a good like for Farrell possibly. And I think the rising talent who you might want to get on the bench as well is Charlie Atkinson, now of Leicester, formerly of Wasps. Interestingly, on the receiving end of one of Owen Farrell's nasty tackles as well. Certainly Leicester did well to swoop for him. I think he's the rising talent at 10. I think he's got everything. Physically, he's got a great frame. He's got a good kicking game, good running game, good passing game. Like him a lot. So let me know who you'd put on the bench for England. Let me know what you think of the Owen Farrell ban. Was it the right length of time? Talk about tackling in general and trying to bring those high and dangerous tackles down and out of the game. How do you do it, if at all? Let me know what you think, and I'll catch you next time.